Hi everybody, it's Richard Seaman from SLCT Life Coach Training and Development. I'm so happy to have you here today as we are now stepping into another portion of Course 3 to becoming a life coach. And today we're going to have an opportunity to do an amazing video, a mystical video, a powerful video on helping our clients step through fears. Yeah, I said it. It's the big F word. It's F-E-A-R. And today we're going to be working with a client named April who's going to be working with her fears, whatever those are. And you're going to be watching that I'm going to be drawing out April's fears in a slow, methodical way that maybe she believes that she has a specific fear, but we don't really know what that fear is going to be like. But during the process of drawing her up and out, that we're going to be able to really shine a light on her number one top fear that she wants to work on. And we're going to move through that in a metaphorical way. We're going to be having a metaphorical conversation with the client, because when you give the client a mask, they will tell you all their secrets. And metaphors are great ways to be able to really help our clients have a mask and to get really honest with their fears. And so today, as we have this powerful conversation with April around her fears metaphorically, we're also going to be stepping into working with anchors and helping her figure out what her anchor is to remember her truths by. And so I invite you in this moment to really pay attention, to have your fears worksheet out in front of you. And if as many times as you need to rewatch this video, please do, because it is very complex, but it's very achievable. So I invite you to watch and to dance in the mystery as we step April from her fear-based thinking to a more powerful thought process and a reframe in her life and her fears. So thank you and enjoy the session. Hi, April.
Hi.
It's so good to see you.
You as well.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm really, really good, thank you. I am so excited to be able to finally have an opportunity to sit down with you today. And I know that we've had other coaching sessions in the past, and we've done some work before. And you reached out to me. It sounds like from the things that you told me was that you are moving through some big stuff in your life.
Yes.
And it's really about, maybe I had suggested to you that maybe it was time to look at some fears and to look at maybe those fears that are holding you back.
Yeah.
So do you know what the acronym for fear means?
No.
So the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And so when I say that to you, it's really about that the fear that you're having or you believe you're having may appear real to you, but it's actually just an illusion. And it's an illusion of your own mind. And so are you open to the possibility of looking at this illusion for what it is and stepping into a metaphorical conversation with me to be able to really help you see it for what it really, really is?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. I also want to bring to the awareness about fears is that when we are faced with fears, we have two options. And that option is option A would be that we learn how to face everything and rise, which is another acronym for fear. Or the other option is that we would forget everything and run. So where are you today? Are you a face everything and rise or forget everything and run?
I'm definitely not a runner.
Well, let's do this. And I'm excited to be able to work with you today. Is this space that we're in right now, does it work for you?
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay, good. All right. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
All right.
I'm good.
So do you feel that you know the differences between consulting, counseling, and coaching?
I do feel like I know the difference, but I'm definitely open to you sharing how you'd like to explain it.
Yeah, so what a coach is that we're about meeting the client where they are today and then helping them get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
We're not here to tell them to do anything or to consult with them and teach them things. We're really about believing that the client has all the answers within them. And it's my job to draw out your own brilliance so you're able to really get that you know. And how does that make you feel? When I say that?
It makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel like I can conquer anything that I want to.
Right. So that's how I'm going to hold you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Okay. So tell me what you need to do right now to get yourself in the here and the now. And we're going to call the word center and bring you and myself fully into the present moment. So what would you do right now to do that, April?
I would close my eyes, take a couple cleansing deep breaths, and just kind of get myself centered and kind of here in the room.
Okay. So let's do what you do. I'm going to do what I do, and I'll meet you in the middle.
Sounds great.
Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So April, I'm going to take you through a process today, and I have this tool that I'm going to use, and it's called Overcoming Your Fears, using metaphors and anchors.
Okay.
And the first part of the process is a fear worksheet, and the worksheet is designed to help me as your coach to draw your fears out. And the first process is I'm going to ask you to speak a phrase out. And the phrase is going to be, I'm afraid that.
Okay.
And you're going to start to tell me the things you're afraid of. But the big piece in this is that I don't want a long story. It's going to be a simple phrase or a word.
Okay.
And then we're going to keep doing that until you're completely empty.
Okay.
All right. Are you clear?
I'm clear.
Okay. So let's start with the first phrase. And that is, I'm afraid that.
I'm afraid that I will fail.
Okay. I'm afraid that.
I'll make a mistake.
Okay.
I'm afraid that I'm not good enough.
Okay.
I'm afraid that I'll be alone.
Okay, good. You're doing good. What else? I'm afraid that.
I'm afraid that I'll be rejected.
Good. Keep going.
I'm afraid that I won't matter.
Do you feel like you're empty?
I think so.
It's a good breath. Do you want to check in one more time and make sure you're completely empty?
Sure.
Okay, you're doing really good, April.
Thank you.
So let's try one more time. I'm going to ask if you're willing to place your hand on your knowing. And that's that place that you just know that you know. It's like your intuitional gut knowing, that place that you just have a knowing.
Yes.
Okay. Connect to that space. Close your eyes one more time. And try that one more time. I'm afraid that.
I'm afraid that they can't love me.
Who's they?
People.
Keep going. What else? I'm afraid that.
I'm afraid that I'm too much.
What else?
I'm afraid that I'm overbearing.
You're doing good. Keep going with that. You're doing great.
I'm afraid that my truth is intimidating.
And keep going.
And I'm afraid that I'll have to stand alone.
Beautiful. Is there anything else in there, April, that needs to be spoken out, give birth to with your words?
The last thing that comes to me is that I'm afraid I'm too powerful.
Okay. You're doing great. Is there anything else in there? You good? Okay. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
You did really good work. I loved most that you were closing your eyes and that you were really spending time and reflecting on the question.
Yeah.
And that I really liked that when I asked you to go to your knowing, it got even bigger.
Yeah.
So thank you for trusting me.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. What are your tears about today?
That's a great question. I feel like my tears are part of my truth. I feel like that's my vulnerability. I feel like I carry sadness.
And if you were to name your sadness, what would it be?
I think it would be grief and acceptance.
Grief of?
Loss, like of my loved ones.
And then the acceptance is about?
Accepting what was and what is and what's to come. Just really letting into that acceptance.
Thank you for naming that. That's a very powerful process to to name something, because I think that when we name it, we tame it.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Good. Okay. All right. So that's a really great process that you just went through. So let's continue. Are you ready to move forward?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read back to you, April, everything that you said to me. And I'd like you to be in awareness of what one is really up for you, because we're going to be looking at your top 3 fears, and then we're going to drill down from there. Okay. So I'm going to read these back to you. And then I want you, if you're willing, to just pay attention. And you can either say that, or you can wait till the end and then give me your 3.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So you said, I'm afraid that I'll fail. I'm afraid that I'll make mistakes. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. I'm afraid I'll be alone. I'll be rejected. I won't matter. I can't do it. I won't be understood. I'll be judged. I won't be accepted. I'll get too big. I'll show my truths. I'll be attacked. People can't love me. I'm too much. I'm overbearing. My truths will be intimidating for others. I'll have to stand alone. I'm too powerful.
So definitely the acceptance. Like, I won't be accepted.
All right.
The fear of being alone.
Okay.
Or needing to do it alone, like a mixture of those two. And the too much and the I'm too powerful stick out for me.
Okay, let's put your hands up. And let's put too much in one hand and the I'm too powerful. Was that what it was again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So too much, too powerful. So too much, too powerful. Let your body kinesthetics weigh them out. So which one is it? I'm too much or I'm too powerful?
Too powerful.
See, that's your big fear, that you're too powerful. Okay. I'm too powerful. Okay, good. So what we just did, April, is we just drew down and we took all that you gave me, I'm afraid that, and now we're stepping into, we've drilled down and whittled it down to your top 3 fears. So here what we have to work with. And I'd like you, if you're willing, to pick the top fear that you have, so we can work around that if you choose to.
Okay.
Okay? So here we go. I'm afraid that I won't be accepted. I'm afraid that I'll be alone. I'm afraid I'm too powerful. Which fear sticks out the most today that you'd like to work on today?
Be alone.
Okay, so I'm afraid that I'll be alone. All right, so we're going to work on I'm afraid that I'll be alone.
Yes.
Okay. How much energy does that have on a 1 to 10, 10 being the most for you?
A 10.
Okay, so it's pretty high. Okay. And do you believe you know where that comes from? Okay. That's really important. Okay. And where would you like to see that number be, that energy, that tension is the word I'd use.
Yeah. I think I'd like to at least see it drop to a 6 or a 7.
Okay. And what does that look like?
That looks like me not having that fear, because I feel like focusing on that is putting me ahead of the now. And it's an uncomfortable place. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we know where you are.
Yeah.
We want to be at a 5 or a 6, which is not having it.
Correct.
Because I think that we are hardwired as humans to be connected.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think everyone's got a little bit of that, but then some of us are like hyper alert to it. And it sounds like you know where it all starts and came from. Yeah, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. You're doing really good.
Thank you.
All right, so what we focused on is that you've decided that you want to work on, I'm afraid I'll be alone again.
Again.
Is that my words? Because I keep hearing comma, again, period.
Yeah, it feels like it's repetitive.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay. So here we go. So we're going to move to the second step in the worksheet. So number 2 says, if that were to happen, that you're alone again, I believe that.
I believe that I will feel lonely. I believe that I will not be happy. I believe it will leave me scared.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. So you just said that your big fear is that I'll be alone again. And if that happens, I believe that I will feel lonely, I'm not going to be happy, and then I'll be scared.
Yes.
So let's say that that happens. So we're going to move now to the third area of this worksheet, where it says, I believe that I will feel lonely, I'm not going to be happy, and I'll be scared. If that happens, then I believe that
I'll be self-destructive.
Hold that for a second. And self-destructive and
feel depressed and lost.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Ready? So here we go again. So your biggest fear currently today is that I'm afraid I'm going to be alone again. And if that happens, that you believe that you'll feel lonely, not happy, and scared. And if that all happens, then you believe that I'll be self-destructive, I'll feel depressed and lost. And if you were to get self-destructive, depressed, and lost, then you believe that
I will lose my truth. I'll forget my path. And I won't do my work.
Got it. So we just went through step 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the worksheet, in the fear worksheet. And we're now going to step off the page. We will come back to step 5 in the worksheet. So for those people that are watching this online in the class, just understand that this is about now stepping off of the page, and we'll get back to number 5 in a moment. But for today, we're going to now just go into the metaphor.
Okay.
So what is a metaphor to you, April?
So a metaphor is like another way of explaining a situation or a story without actually saying the story. For me.
Good. So it's a symbolism, or it's like this,
Yes.
right? Okay. So if we were to see your fear that here I am again, I'll be alone again,
Yes.
as your top fear, and it was something that was in front of you, that was in your way, like an obstacle, that was literally like you're walking along your life pathway, and then this thing that sounds like it's been following you all of your life, what do you see? What's the metaphorical obstacle in front of you?
The first thing that comes to me is like a shadow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's
So
like a dark, just heavy shadow, just kind of lurking.
Okay. Good. So we've got a great metaphor to work with. So I'm going to work with that metaphor now, and I'd like you to stay in the metaphor with me. Okay. So you said that the obstacle that's in front of you that just like sort of arrives is this dark, heavy, lurking shadow. Okay. Wonderful. What does that do for you when you speak it out like that?
It gives it form, you know, so I'm not just kind of like, oh, where's this coming from? But now I have like this visual that I can look at or that I can face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus trying to like process it in your own mind, which never is helpful,
Correct.
is it?
No.
Now you went, oh, I can see it. I can face it.
I see you.
I see you. Ooh, I see you.
Yeah.
So say that out loud. I see you, shadow.
I see you, shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's work with the shadow. Let's talk more about the form of this shadow. So describe to me exactly, besides dark, heavy, lurking, how big is this shadow? Wide? Just really describe it for me.
Okay. It's definitely taller than me, which is not difficult to do.
So give it a height.
I'd say 7 feet.
Wow. 7-foot shadow.
7-foot shadow.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe 5 foot wide.
Oh, wow. It's 7 by 5 shadow.
7 by 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And it feels like heavy and almost like wispy. You know, like if I turn one way, it's like, whew, and it just can turn with me. If that makes sense. And it can almost wrap around me a little bit. Like a fog.
Okay.
Like a thick fog, right? And if you've ever tried to drive through it, it can be scary because you can't see.
Yeah.
You can't see on the other side of the fog.
Okay. Got it. So so it feels like this giant wall of fog that is super heavy and dense.
Yes.
And murky. Okay. And so does it just appear on your pathway in life at random times, or is there certain things that trigger the fog to show up in your life, this shadow?
I definitely think there's triggers for it.
What would those be?
Death, like if I lose somebody that I love.
Okay.
That's, I think, the biggest trigger, usually when it'll start regaining that strength again, right? Because maybe I can push it for a while, and then if something like that comes up for me, it brings me somewhere else. Does that make sense?
It brings you where?
It brings me to a place of feeling that feeling of, oh, you know, I lost somebody else again.
What does that feel like? Let's name it.
It's like a stabbing in your heart. It's like an emptiness, you know, like something just got taken out.
Okay. I'm hearing a word, and this is my intuition guiding me. And maybe I'm wrong, so tell me if this fits or not for you, but I see the Grim Reaper.
Yeah. Yeah, because I can see like eyes.
Yeah.
Even. Like
And
these little eyes that appear once in a while. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. Can we give it a name? Is that so we can call it out? Is it so besides shadow, does it have a name? We know it's like a Grim Reaper and everyone can relate to that. But is there a name for it?
I don't feel one yet.
Okay. So we can just call it, do we want to refer to it as a shadow or as a Grim Reaper?
We can say the Grim Reaper.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for
Okay.
me.
You relate to it?
I do.
Okay, good. All right. So we've got this shadow named Grim Reaper who's dark, heavy, and lurks. He's 7 by 5. He's very dense and like a fog. And what triggers the Grim Reaper of showing up in your life, April, is things like death
and loss.
And that it's this feeling that shows up with the death and loss that feels like a stabbing in your heart. You feel empty and you feel lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we clear? Do you feel heard?
Yes, I feel heard.
Good. All right. So let's work with this Grim Reaper of a shadow, the 7 by 5 foot giant creeper reaper, right? Because I like to use sometimes the word creep, which is this thing that we all have that creeps up in our mind, and then it tries to derail us from our higher self.
Yes.
So there's a creep. And something gets triggered in you. It's either a thought of loss or a worry of someone dying or you being alone again, because we're going back to the fear of being alone again.
Yeah.
Or feeling alone again or feeling lost again.
Yeah.
Right? And so all of a sudden the shadow, the Grim Reaper, the creep, just shows up in front of you and it says what?
Here I am again.
And so tell me, I want you to take me there.
Okay.
And tell me what this thing is talking about.
So right in this moment, it's reminding me of how weak I can become. It's taken me to my vulnerability. It brings up things inside of me, like emotions that make me feel weak, like I can't get past it.
And is it telling you that, or is that what it just makes you feel?
Mostly, I think it's just what makes me feel. Because it kind of, you know how I explained that it almost like not hugs me, but it kind of does that surrounding me where you're like, you start to feel suffocated.
And does it want to do something to you? What is its intention?
I almost feel like it wants to push me.
Where? To where?
To find my way around it. To show it who I really am.
If your shadow, because you said it wants to push you, you said. It wants to, almost inviting you to get around it, to figure out your way through it, or and it feels like a test of faith.
It's almost like a taunt, like
Okay.
it's taunting. Like,
Tell me more.
you know, like yeah, here I am again, but you know, what are you going to do about it? You know.
So it's about taming it. So in the past, would you run from it? Would you avoid it? Would you let it destroy you? Would you let it push you into a hole, into a piece of depression? What would you do?
I'd say a mixture of all those things, just depending where on my path. So I feel like there would be a point where I'd give in to it and I'd just fall. Right? So I wouldn't run, but I'd give in to it. And then if something shifted for me, if my focus shifted, then I'd rise. And I'd say, no, I don't have time for this. I have to do better. And I'll go for a little while, and then boom, something will happen again, and I'll fall. And I'll give in. And that's where I think some of that, like self-destructive things that I talked about, or depression, you know, would set in. And I feel like it's been this constantly.
So it depends on the day. Some days you're like, do you ever have a moment when you just see it, call it out, and move around it like no big deal? Have you? Okay. And what happens then?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I've had a couple years where I feel like I did that, but I feel like I did it in a sense of pushing it to the side. right? Maybe building a wall to it. So that's like, no, I'm not looking at you.
Still there.
It's still there, but I'm like, no, I'm strong and I got this. But I still wasn't completely in my truth.
So you compartmentalized it?
Correct.
And what do you mean by you're not in your truth?
So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to focus on strictly my career. And because that's going to keep me focused, and I won't do these other self-destructive things. But I'm not going to look for love because that's going to derail me, and I'm not going to do this, right? So I didn't allow myself to truly live. I just found a focal point to.
So you sort of like, it keeps reappearing, and instead of facing it, you decide to sidetrack it, but it just sort of hangs out. Then eventually it catches up with you again, and then it keeps reappearing. So this is great. Wow. So let's look at this. So if that's the truth and it keeps reappearing because it's a quote, what you resist will persist.
Yes.
So what is it that it's trying to tell you? So here's what I know, okay? I feel very strongly to say, and I could be wrong, and I'm going to ask you, is this shadow really here to not derail you, but it's trying to get you to get something?
Yeah.
To get a lesson or a blessing,
Yeah.
or to have you see something about yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take the idea of it being the Grim Reaper, and let's, if you're willing, to reframe it. So if we could reframe it from this 7x5 lurking, heavy, dense, foggy shadow, it's still a big energy. It could be 7x5, but what would be a positive reframe for it versus it being negative?
God.
Okay. So why would it have to show up as this form versus the form of a God?
Because it's a lesson that I have to learn. It's something I have to learn about myself. And maybe if it was God, I'd be very open to it, right? And I wouldn't get the lesson of, I see it this way because it's attached to pain for me. And perhaps that's why I'm seeing it in that gloomy, dark. But it's like, how do you go within enough to see through that?
How do you?
I think it's connecting with my highest self and finding that truth and that willingness within me. And I feel like part of that is what I talked about, acceptance. I think that has multiple...
Expand on that word in this context.
Yeah. I think it's acceptance of self, acceptance of what was, and I can't change that. And acceptance of what is. Yeah.
Wow. Let's stop that, because that's beautiful. So in my work, there's two phrases that I use. One is, and so it is, because it's an is. And the best one I've heard and I've developed in a long time, and so it was.
And I love that.
When I say, and so it was, April, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's like, and so it was. The chapter is closed there. Why are you going back? There's nothing you can do to change that. And so it was. Yes.
And I get very clearly, and I feel like we're on the same pathway here in this, is that we've reframed the Grim Reaper into this form of God that's here to talk to you, but with your association with loss and death, and that it equates being alone again, that it's about accepting what is. And so it's not a Grim Reaper, it's just the way that you've seen it.
Correct.
Is that true, or is that my words?
No, it's true.
I feel you really felt that.
Yeah, I did.
Tell me what you just got in that moment. I saw you just get something.
It's kind of like a release, almost. Like, you have to get to a place where you can stand back and be truthful with yourself to see something that big. Because it started with death or even abandonment. So you see this as this ugly, painful thing. So that's what you what you feel, you make it exist that way. So that's what I've seen, instead of understanding that it's really a part of life. And I can't control that. Nobody can control that. So it's that acceptance, and it's really letting go. And that's where I'm at with that.
I think it's normal for all of us to feel grief and to feel loss and to feel alone. But it's what I'm wondering, and tell me how this feels for you, is if you're so strong that some of this abandonment and some of this loss that you've experienced is just because you're so darn strong, and that you've got this massive message in the world, because you talked about in some of your processes with the fear worksheet about being too big, being too powerful. And I've always said this, that what if our biggest messes can become our message? Or what if our biggest message can become our ministry? Do you feel that we're in the work that you're stepping into, that this is part of your message?
Oh, yeah.
And why?
I feel like all the things that I've gone through are for a reason. They're not a mistake. They're not by chance, if you will. I feel like it's part of my purpose. It's part of really being able to give that message, is because I've gone through it. And stepping through the other side of it is where I can help other people.
Do you feel that you could step people through their shadows?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe what the shadow is about is so you can become intimate with it?
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe you could see your shadow as not a shadow, that it's actually God coming in the form that you're most used to?
Yes.
Sit in that. And what does that mean to you, what I just said to you? In the form that you're most used to. Why would that be a true statement, and why did that come out of my mouth?
Yeah, no, spot on. Because the form that I'm most used to is pain, hurt, rejection in the past. Things that I've gone through would make me associate that in a negative form. So that would become this cloud, this grim reaper, this darkness. But by shifting your understanding of what was and what is, then you see the truth. You see that it's not darkness, it's just God or this higher power that's really with me, guiding me, asking me to dance with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dance with it.
Trust it.
When we transform our mind, we transform our life.
Yes.
What could you do now with this to have a new truth, which is step 5 of our sheet? What can you do now with the information that we've unraveled to have a new truth about the shadow, the Grim Reaper?
Yeah. I could sit with it.
Okay.
Stop avoiding it. And what I mean by sit with it is to sit in silence and talk to it. And try to understand what it is it's asking me to do, or asking me to see, to move forward.
And how do you get there so you can reframe those moments when you want to control them versus let them be and let them reveal their messages to you?
I think first and foremost, it's really sitting with what I thought was this bad shadow, and opening up to the possibilities of what it's trying to teach me, what it's trying to show me, and just go with it.
And you also got that this shadow, this Grim Reaper, isn't actually a shadow or a reaper or a creeper. It's God showing up in the form that you're most used to. And so it's trying to get your attention.
I feel like I need to change my association with the feeling.
Perfect. So the feeling that you gave me, and we called it out earlier, was grief. But then you said acceptance.
Right.
That's what you named it.
Yeah, and that's
so
what
when
I
you
need.
That's it. So you just said this earlier in the session, that your name of the feeling was grief. And what I'm hearing is that when grief shows up, somehow you got to find out how to accept it.
Correct.
And the acceptance, is it possible that it's that I have faith in what I can't see.
Yeah. And accepting what it is.
So you said I need to change my relationship with it, or what I make it mean.
Yes.
So how do you accept and change it?
Just understanding that loss and change is a part of life.
Say it again.
Loss and change is a part of life. And so it was, and so it is.
Does it make you hard? Does it make you seem callous, like you don't care?
I think sometimes I might have an issue with that, yes.
Okay.
You spot on with that.
Correct, but that's what people might watch this video and say that. But what if I said to you that for your mental health, you need to keep your mind in the right place around loss?
Right.
And so when loss shows up, I feel it to heal it, but then eventually I have to accept it.
Right.
Does that feel like a truth to you?
And it does.
And the emotions that are coming up are about right now?
I've suppressed it for a long time.
Tell me more.
I guess in an effort to, or how I felt at the time, to not get lost in my emotions, I held on to like strength instead of letting them flow through me and going through that acceptance and then moving forward. I just pushed it to the side and okay, I got this, and I'm going to pull myself together. But it didn't serve me well to do that.
That's where the self-destruction shows up.
Correct.
So what I said to you, which I think hit home for you, was when you feel it, you heal it.
Yeah. And I think I'm doing a lot of that recently in this last year. Is the fog's not going away, and there's a reason for that. And I have to be okay with being emotional. It's okay. Let it flow and then go on.
Yes.
Let it flow and then go on. Don't
versus the other, which was, so really what that Green Reaper is all these unprocessed emotions.
Yeah.
And the why it's so big, if I maybe throw it out there, is because of all the years that you repressed it.
Correct.
So think about every time you repress it, it just adds to the depth, the density, and the heaviness of this fog, the shadow.
Yes.
And so it would diminish if you would feel it and let it flow through you, name it, to tame it,
Yes.
and then you heal it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
So this could be an amazing celebration for you.
Yes.
To see that this is obtainable and tameable. It's part of life, April.
Yeah.
It's how we choose to view it and manage it. So are you ready to let go of the repression that you just told me that you like to live in? Because feeling it hurts.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So what are some of the things that you can do to feel the feelings that come up around loss and being alone? Versus not doing anything or just not looking at it. How do you move it?
I like to write.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think writing. It sounds funny, but even if I have thoughts that come up for me and I just share them, speak it out, whether it's even just, sharing a part of the story, sitting in the good memories, thinking of it that way instead of going always back to what's not there. But what are all the beautiful things I gained from those relationships?
Right. So we write it out.
Right.
So there's a way I say we can walk it out, write it out, talk it out, exercise it out, do creative things, just something that moves it.
Yes.
Something, right? And it seems like you want to share it somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something you're willing to start right away?
Yeah.
Okay. And how will I know you're doing these things when things pop up? Because you're doing the work today.
Mm-hmm.
So then if it shows back up and you go, oh, there's my shadow.
And then I could write about what I'm receiving.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not this reaper.
Right.
It's just God coming in the form that you're most used to.
Yes.
And then we stay, okay, there it is again.
Yeah.
And I'm not alone. It's a different form. And I move through it by writing it out.
Yes.
Okay. If you were to have an anchor that would remind you of this truth, what would that anchor be? And an anchor is this thing that keeps us from drifting into wrong thinking. So an anchor on a boat anchors the vessel to the body of the ocean to keep it from going into the rocks, metaphorically, or off the rails. So what would be your anchor to keep you in the right thinking and remember this truth by?
The first thing that came to me was be still. Be still. Yes.
And you know that you need to be still, and through the stillness, you begin to write about it.
Yes.
Love that. What a great plan, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Did you get that?
Yes. Yeah, I got it.
So I'm aware. It's not a fog that's going to derail me. It's the faith fog. That means I need to be still. I need to write about it.
Yes. Be still.
Until it moves itself out. Okay. Great anchor. Great metaphor. Very workable. April, if you had a truth today that you were walking away with today, my truth is what?
My truth is I'm going to walk in the faith with the fog and sit with it and be still.
Perfect. And you'll start this immediately?
Immediately.
Okay.
Tonight.
Wonderful. Was this a helpful session today?
Absolutely.
On a 1 to 10, how successful was your session today?
A 20.
A 20? Good.
No, it was amazing.
All right. And did you get what you needed today?
Yes, I did.
All right. So I want to just affirm you that there is this great faith fog that shows up to you that allows you to stop and get still and process it.
Yes.
And when you begin to do that, it's going to reframe your entire life. I feel honored today to be able to work with you today.
Thank you.
And you're an amazing soul. And I've always believed that, and I always have known that about you. And I thank you for doing your work today and letting people in the whole entire world watch this process to support other people in the world. So thank you for being a great teacher today.
Thank you.
All right, are we clear?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.